What's up everyone? Welcome back to my home studio. Another DKW demo. This week or the next 3 weeks we're gonna start Intaglio processes, namely dry points. Today we're gonna go through dry point prep, how to prepare your copper plates, how to bevel, creating acetate registration, squaring up your plates, and cleaning and prepping the surface so that you can put marks onto the plate with the needle and create your image. So the first thing you want to do is square up your plates. So if your plate isn't square, you want to line up the outside edge to the plate. Take your marker or a pen and mark the side of the plate that isn't square. So this one is, you can see the consistent black marker line. So that edge and that edge are perpendicular to one another, and that edge and that edge are perpendicular to one another. So what you'll do then is use a file to slowly file the side of the plate until the black line disappears, and that's how you'd square up your plates. The next step in the process is beveling the edges. On your copper plates, the way they were cut leaves a little burr. So eventually, if you had to print the plate the way it is, under the amount of pressure, which is incredibly heavy, that we're going to print copper plate prints, in this case dry point prints on, the edge of the plate will cut through the paper. So we want to slightly bevel the edge of the plate just to ensure that there's no burrs and it's not a strong, almost blade-like edge. We've been working on the back of the plate up to this point. So when we flip it over, there's a film on top, and that protects the surface of the plates just to make sure that it doesn't scratch or that it stays kind of fresh and clean for when you want to print it. I like to bevel with the plastic still on, if possible, so that if anything slips or happens with the tool, or if copper shavings go onto the surface of the plate, there's no scratches. We'll take the protective plastic sheet off just before we polish and prepare the plate for putting the image onto it. Okay, so when you're beveling your plates, you need a file, and so there's a tool to deburr plates, but I'm using a spoon because I don't have the tool with me. You want to have a 45-degree angle on the file, brace the plates with your non-dominant hand, and then you're just filing the burr off the top edge of the plate. Once you've done the corner, you want to hold it perpendicular to the plate and not take any material away, but just loosen whatever filings are there. So you can see all of that stuff on the surface of the plate came off of the side, just so that it doesn't cut you when you do this. So I did the other 3 corners with the file. Now that I've done that, I'm going to use my spoon, starting with the handle. Use the edge of the handle to just go over the bevel. So using this corner will act as a scraper, just to scrape off any pieces of copper that are standing up. Once I've done that, I'll use the base of the spoon So as you're doing this, you'll see the surface of the plate, or the side of the plate that you beveled, become really shiny, and that's a good sign. That means that all the burrs from the file are flattening out, and you're creating a really smooth, easy to clean edge for once you're printing. So let's do a comparison. This is the side that I filed. This is the side that I burnished. So you can see how polished that edge is versus how rough that edge is. Okay, so now that we've filed and beveled the edges and they're all super smooth and shiny, we can take this plastic off. So we'll use some thinners to get all the excess glue off. Once the thinners is done, put some turpentine on the plate, a different rag, then leave that to sit for a bit. So turpentine is quite oily, so you want to leave a really thin film of turps on the surface of the plate and wait for it to slowly dry out. Okay, so once the turpentine is dry, Pour some alcohol on the plate. These brown striations or lines you can see in the plate are most likely tarnishing, which means because the plate is really old, the copper has oxidized and tarnished over time. So it's the tarnishing is like the copper equivalent of rust, but it's in the surface of the plates. And the next step will take care of that, which is using twinkle or a copper cleaner to deoxidize, get rid of any like surface blemishes on the plates, and polish it up nice and bright. So I've set this up outside near a hose. You can do this in a sink. It's just easier for the setup that I have. So I have my twinkle with water. Make sure it's nice and soft. Nice paste. Put water on the surface of the plate and start to work the twinkle. So you can see the tarnishing already starting to disappear. The surface of the plate. So what twinkle does is it's etching the surface and cleaning. So you can see how those striations are gone. I'm going to do one more layer of twinkle. Okay, now as I said earlier, water will tarnish the plate. So what you want to do at this step is tip the plate, use alcohol. Before the alcohol evaporates or dries, you want to use tissues or serviettes to quickly clean the surface of the plate. Plate's dry and clean. That's your clean plate. Because we put alcohol on it, it will tarnish if you don't start working on it. So what you can do is take turpentine and create an oily foam on the surface of the plate, which will protect it from humidity in the air, any water droplets, to a certain extent obviously, or oxidation that may happen. You want to leave enough turpentine to create a shiny film on the surface of the plates without touching the top. Just set it aside. So I've pre-cut my different sheets of paper. Right now though, I'm going to show you guys how to make an acetate registration. So you take your paper and your acetate, which I've squared up already. Put your paper under the sheet, line it up, get your ruler, and I'm going to use blue for the paper, permanent marker, line up the edge of the ruler to the edge of the paper. Now that you've marked out the paper, put your plate down, measure the borders. So I measured the borders to be 3.5 consistently on the top and on the sides. And then I'm going to mark out the plate. Take that off. Paper, you want to do it backwards because we're going to flip the acetate. That's how to make an acetate registration. So we've come to the end of drypoint preparation video. Drypoint is a technique, a broader category of intaglio prints, kind of in the same way that lino cut and wood cut are both relief techniques. So although drypoint is an intaglio technique, it's not an etching technique because we're going to be scratching into the surface of the plate to produce the image instead of removing material through a chemical process. The preparation video is pretty much complete. We've cropped our paper, which you guys have seen how to do on the relief demo, prepared an acetate registration, and I've taken you through beveling, filing, and cleaning and preparing your plate. Stay tuned for the rest of this week and next week as we will have the next steps in the process of making a drypoint print. Those two videos will include how to make the plates as well as printing intaglio prints. Show you guys how to ink up and print a drypoint using damp or wet paper on the etching press. This has been another video demo from me, Chad Cordeiro, printer at David Krut Projects and Danger Gevaar in Studio. Be safe. Peace.